Welcome to the CDC Weight Loss and Diabetes Prevention Program. The lies you've been told about weight loss and 4 simple steps to losing belly fat and changing your future. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Bob Mihalov, founder of Trinity Health Coaching, where we help people who struggle to lose belly fat to achieve breakthroughs and permanently reach their weight loss goals. Our promise to you is that you'll learn 4 secrets for losing dangerous belly fat, even if nothing else has worked for you before, that you'll understand what truly causes weight gain and belly fat better than most medical professionals do. And finally, there is nothing for sale at the end of this webinar. I want to ask you if you can relate to this. Have you tried diet after diet, each one promising results that they couldn't deliver? Or maybe one worked for a while, but it was impossible to stay on? Have you been conditioned to believe that the only way to lose weight is to eat less and exercise more? The truth is that weight loss is not obtained by working out for hours and eating nothing but boiled chicken with salad. Are you tired of eating different food from the rest of your family because they want to eat food that actually tastes good? Year after year, have you set goals to lose those extra inches but can't seem to ever make it permanent? The good news is it's not your fault. The real problem is that we've been taught the wrong way to eat based on false science for the last 40 years. Counting calories is not the answer. Understanding what's really behind weight gain will help you to break free from the frustration you've been fighting all these years. Now, I'll start by telling you that this is not for everybody. It is for people who have struggled to lose weight or belly fat for years and finally want to lose it for life, who want to eat great tasting food following a dietary protocol that they can stay on for life, and who don't just want more information, but are ready to get results, are coachable, and are willing to take action. So before we go any further, I'd like to introduce who we are. Here I am with my wife, Vicki, who is our senior health coach and a CDC certified lifestyle coach. Vicki and I started in the wellness field for very different reasons. For me, it came as a result of my first wife, Claudia's death from breast cancer at the young age of 43. I learned so much about what causes most chronic diseases as we were going through that ordeal, and it instilled in me a desire to help other people learn how much control they have over their own health. I do this to help others avoid the suffering that my wife and our entire family went through so they can live longer, healthier lives. In Vicki's case, she's coming at it from a very different perspective. She struggled with being overweight to the point where she became pre-diabetic, and she was totally frustrated with her inability to keep her weight under control or to keep her blood sugar under control. As we've implemented these lifestyle changes that we're going to share with you today, it's allowed us to help many others over the years. We've got a decade of experience helping women and men, individuals, families, and even entire companies to lose weight and be healthy through the programs that we've offered. We've got significant experience helping people learn how to change their eating habits through providing healthy cooking classes and providing tips to our clients on ingredient substitutions that will allow you to make your favorite dishes healthier. We've even been featured on multiple local TV shows promoting wellness to our community. So let's now start by talking about secret number 1. Eating fat does not make you fat. We go back and look at the history of obesity in our country. Back in the 60s and into the 70s, the US adult obesity rate was running at about 12% of the population. By the late 70s, it had crept up to about 15%, and the government felt like they needed to get involved. So they did, and they told us 2 things. First, they told us that we needed to exercise more, and secondly, they rolled out the food pyramid, which focused on reducing calories by eating less fat and eating more grains. As a result of that, what do you think happened next? Well, look at what happened to obesity after the government got involved. There's a problem with what they told us to do. And that problem is that fat's not what makes us fat. In fact, if you look even deeper at the numbers over the last 30 to 40 years, you can see that the orange line here represents how obesity has risen from 15% up to over 35%, and it's even a little bit higher now as we get into the end of this decade. However, the blue line shows that our daily fat intake hasn't changed over that time. So that just reinforces the fact that dietary fat as a percentage of calories is not the cause of the obesity epidemic. But we need to take a little even deeper look at this. Once again, the orange line represents the obesity rate, but the blue line represents added fats that have increased over the last 30 to 40 years. And those added fats are the polyunsaturated fatty acids that come from seed oils like corn oil, safflower oil, vegetable oil, the things that they've told us to use for cooking. Unfortunately, those high man-made fats are very closely tied to obesity. So secret number one is that we need to eat plenty of whole food fats and eliminate the man-made fats from our diet. Secret number two, it's not about counting calories. So they've told us over the last several decades that the reason that we gain weight is because we eat more calories than we burn. We're told that we need to balance our calorie intake through the foods that we eat to our calorie expenditure, which comes from exercise. And if we balance those two, we'll balance our weight. But what does that balancing really look like at a deeper level? How do we balance our calories? Well, here's what we know from science. 1 pound is 3,500 calories. 2 pounds is 7,000 calories. 1 bite of chicken equates to about 19 calories. So let's look at what happens over the course of 365 days in 1 year. What happens to our balance if every day we eat 1 extra bite of chicken more than we burn? That 1 extra bite, which is 19 calories, would equal 7,000 calories over a year. Those 7,000 extra calories would cause you to gain 2 pounds every year. If we did that for 10 years, we would gain 20 extra pounds, all from eating 1 extra bite of chicken each day. So the question is, in order not to gain 20 pounds every decade of life, are we able to balance our food intake down to 1 bite a day? That's a pretty unrealistic expectation. It's basically impossible. Nobody can count calories that accurately. Clearly, something else must be going on. Now, we're not saying that calories don't matter and you can eat an unlimited amount every day. But calories are not the driving factor when it comes to weight gain or weight loss. The truth is, all calories are not equal. Different foods do different things in our body. Let's consider 100 calories of broccoli versus 100 calories of chocolate cake. Common sense tells you that these do very different things in our body. Yet the experts that promote the calories in versus calorie out approach would have you believe that they have the same impact on your weight. All I can tell you is, if that's truly the case, give me the cake every time. But we know that that doesn't make sense. There's more to it than calories in, calories out. So what is really going on? Your body is brilliantly designed to withstand feast days and times of famine. We have different hormones that regulate different things in our body, such as how food is processed, how much we burn, and how hungry we get. We can't cover all of these in this webinar, but let's talk briefly about number one, which is how food is processed. So let's start by looking at insulin. Insulin is our storage hormone. Food causes our body to make insulin. Insulin's job is to store glucose and amino acids from the foods that we eat in the cells of our body. Carbs cause the most insulin, as sugar in the blood is the most harmful situation. Protein causes some insulin, so that the amino acids can be shuttled into the muscle cells. Fat causes virtually no insulin response. Let's look at a quick animation in more detail to show how this all works. So this represents a cell, and in this particular example, we're talking about how glucose is transported into the cells to be used for energy. Insulin's job is to open up the glucose channel to allow that glucose to be transported into the cells for energy use. This is an analogy to help reinforce the idea that insulin is necessary to get glucose out of the bloodstream and into the cells where it can be used. In the Japanese subway system, they employ pushers to force extra passengers into the subway trains. So just as the pushers are forcing people into the trains, insulin acts to force the sugar out of the bloodstream and into the muscle or the fat cells. Now, 60 years ago, only 1% of Americans had type 2 diabetes. Obviously, we have the same genes we do today as we did 60 years ago. It's clearly not a genetic issue. So in 60 years, diabetes has gone from 1% to 10% of the adult population. And in fact, it's continuing to climb. And by the year 2025, The CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, predicts that 20% of US adults will have diabetes. So if it's not genetic, the good news is it's 95% preventable, but it's only preventable when we understand the cause. So let's ask a couple of questions. Does obesity cause diabetes, and diabetes is defined as high blood sugar, or does high blood sugar cause obesity? In other words, which one should we be focusing on? Losing weight or lowering our blood sugar? So when we think about it, when we're children, we start eating the standard American diet based on what we've been taught to eat for years. We eat that standard American diet for decades, and during this time frame, during this initial couple of decades, our insulin receptors are functioning properly. A little bit of insulin is able to shuttle the sugar out of our bloodstream into the cells, or adequately shuttle the amino acids out of our bloodstream into the muscle cells. However, when we continue eating that same standard American diet, we unknowingly become insulin resistant in early adulthood. Insulin resistance basically means that the receptors on the cells are damaged and don't respond properly to the insulin that's being made by our body, so our body has to make even more insulin to do the same job. Think of it in terms of somebody who's struggling with being an alcoholic. When they took their first drink, they got a very significant response. But the longer that they drink, they have to do more and more to get the same high. It's the same thing here. The more insulin resistant we become because of our lifestyle, the more insulin our body has to make to do the job of getting the sugars and the amino acids out of the bloodstream. When this continues on for a longer period of time, we become an undiagnosed prediabetic. Now, I say undiagnosed because 90% of prediabetics don't know that they're prediabetic. Why do we care whether we're an undiagnosed prediabetic? Well, prediabetes has a pretty significant impact on our bodies. When we're prediabetic, there's damage already occurring in our bodies because of elevated blood sugar. And this damage can occur to our heart, to our liver, to our eyes, to our kidneys, and even to our brain. In fact, the Alzheimer's Association has even referred now to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes. Now, if we don't deal with things when we're pre-diabetic, it can actually progress onto being diabetes. And that's really when the problems start becoming more significant with our health. But unfortunately, all of this cycle continues, and we pass this lifestyle and the standard American diet onto the next generation, and it just continues to propagate the problem. So what are the complications associated with diabetes? Everything from amputations of toes, fingers, feet, hands, to heart disease, to blindness, stroke, and kidney failure. All of these are very significant, to the point where every day 120 diabetics go into kidney failure, 55 go blind, and 230 have a limb amputated. These are national numbers every single day. Beyond that, it makes it extremely difficult to lose weight due to elevated insulin and medications that we take for diabetes. So, if we think about what we just shared, which is really going on? Does obesity cause diabetes, or does high blood sugar cause obesity? The truth is that high blood sugar is what causes obesity. So to lose weight, you must fully understand this concept. To help you understand it even further, let's go back to 1920 to learn more. The picture on the left is of a young girl about 5 years old who was born as a type 1 diabetic. Now, type 1 diabetics, their bodies are unable to make insulin. So this was before man-made insulin was invented, the picture on the left. So without insulin, you can see that she is literally skin and bones. She's got no muscle, she's got no body fat. She was being fed countless calories every day by her parents, trying to get her to put on weight, but no matter how much she ate, she was not able to store fat or store muscle. However, fortunately for her, they invented insulin, and so about 5 months after she started injecting man-made insulin, you can see the picture on the right where now she looks like a normal, healthy young girl. She's got some muscle, she's got body fat. And so the difference of having insulin versus not having insulin reinforces the fact that insulin is the master storage hormone. So without it, we can't survive. That's why type 1 diabetics need to take insulin injections. But there's a dark side to insulin. So let's take a look at what happens if there's too much insulin in our system. When we're young and when we're healthy and we have normal insulin levels, our waist is going to be significantly less than half our height. However, as a result of the standard American diet and the elevated insulin that results, becoming insulin resistant in many cases, now by the time we're a teenager, our waist could now be a little bit more than half of our height. And as things continue and insulin gets to dangerous levels, by early to mid-20s, the waist can be now much more than half of our height. We recommend that everyone perform a simple string test to determine if their waist is less than half their height. The reason is that this test has been shown in medical research to detect a patient's risk for fatty liver disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, insulin resistance, prediabetes, diabetes, and 13 of the fastest growing cancers. And it's simple to do, as the video that you'll see shortly will show you, but it's important that everybody does it, regardless of your BMI and your weight, because the studies have shown is that 25% of the people that are at a healthy BMI and weight still fail the string test.
I am a bit surprised by that, yeah, I thought I'd be about right.
So if you take the test and fail, don't despair. Losing just 5% of your body weight can cut your visceral fat drastically.
Okay, well...
And all you need to keep tabs on your progress is a simple piece of string.
You can get 2 of you in there.
So you're probably wondering, why hasn't my doctor told me about the things that you've been sharing in this webinar? Well, here's the reality that most people face when they go to their regular family practitioners. You go in complaining that you're not able to lose weight. The doctor's response is that your blood sugar and your blood tests all look fine. And they give you the instruction to eat less and exercise more. A couple years later, you go back in complaining that you still can't lose any weight. At this point, the doctor says, well, your sugar's up a little bit, but it's still normal. You must be eating too much. A couple years more go by, and you go in complaining that you're gaining weight. At this point, your blood sugar's to the point where you're now diabetic. So now the doctor can give you medication to help you. We've seen this time after time that people are undiagnosed with increasing blood sugar, and it's only when it's so high that they're considered diabetic that the doctor intervenes, because there is no medical intervention for prediabetes or insulin resistance. So it's important that you know your numbers so that you can know for yourself. Most people don't get their numbers. We really encourage you that you get yours. Write these numbers down so that you know what the different ranges are for healthy, for being insulin resistant, for being pre-diabetic, or for becoming diabetic. Because the further you are along this process, the harder it is to reverse your situation. Now, things are different if you happen to work with a doctor that focuses on functional medicine, which functional medicine doctors tend to focus more on prevention through lifestyle change rather than waiting to just diagnose a disease like a traditional doctor does. So in this particular case, the patient might go in saying that they can't seem to lose weight. The functional medicine doctor is measuring both their blood glucose level and their insulin level. So the doctor's response would be, okay, I see why you can't lose weight. Your sugar is okay, but your insulin is starting to creep up. And we know that insulin is a storage hormone. A year later, the patient comes in and indicates that I've tried eating fewer calories, and the doctor intervenes by saying it's not about calories. It's certain foods that you've been eating that are making your insulin rise. Another year goes by, insulin has crept up even higher, blood sugar is going up, and now the doctor intervenes by saying you're pre-diabetic because both your sugar and your insulin are elevated. And at this point, the doctor would recommend the CDC's diabetes prevention program. Unfortunately, many people respond by saying, I don't have time for that, I'm too busy. Well, what happens? A couple years later, you're now a serious diabetic as your insulin has gone way down and your sugar is way up. And at that point you say, well, maybe I should have joined that program that you recommended a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, the doctor's response at that point is, yes, but it's too late now. You need to be on several medications. Don't be that person that puts it off, because people like you are succeeding. One of our clients, Sam, has lost more than 45 pounds and his triglycerides have been lowered by more than 45 points. And you can see how much of a reduction he's had in his belly fat. So let's go on to secret number 3, which is that there are 2 proven ways of eating to control insulin that involve great tasting foods. So you've probably asked yourself the question, what is the healthiest way to eat so that I can lose weight? And you may be even facing the fact that there are so many opinions out there, which ones are actually supported by studies? Unfortunately, there's a lot of confusion. Now, most experts will agree on 4 things. Number 1, that you should eat 4 to 6 cups of non-starchy vegetables every day. Number 2, that eating 1 cup of berries every day for the antioxidants is beneficial. Number 3, that nuts are full of great fats and promote wellness. And number 4, that avocados are full of great fats, so that you should eat a lot of those. But beyond those 4 things, even the experts don't agree. Some promote high protein, others low protein. Some low fat, some high fat ketogenic diet. Some vegan, some low carb. So what's a person to do? Well, the good news is that worldwide, there is starting to be some consensus on what is actually beneficial. Earlier in 2018, the American Diabetes Association, the European Foundation for the Study of Diabetes, and the Australian Diabetes Society all came together on a consensus report. And in that report, they focus on 2 ways of eating that had the most success at controlling blood sugar. One was a low carbohydrate diet, meaning less than 25% of your calories coming from carbs. The other extreme being a plant-based diet. So what do these 2 ways of eating look like? Well, with a vegan plant-based diet, you're going to start by looking at protein, and you're going to be trying to achieve half of your muscle mass in grams of protein per day into your diet. So, for example, if you have 120 pounds of muscle, you'd be looking to eat about 60 grams of protein per day. If you have 150 pounds of muscle, then your target would be 75 grams of protein per day, coming primarily from things like beans and legumes and non-genetically modified soy products. When it comes to carbohydrates, you're going to be going with a high carb diet, greater than 50% of your calories coming from whole food carbohydrates. You still want to avoid processed carbohydrates and stick to the whole food carbs. And when it comes to fat, you're going to be eating about 15% or less of your calories coming from fat. And these fats, again, are going to be plant-based fats, things like avocado and coconut and nuts. On the other side, you're looking at a low-carb diet. Again, you're going to have the same protein goal, about half of your muscle mass in grams of protein per day. But on the carbohydrate side, your target will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 24% of your calories coming from whole food carbohydrates. And then on the other end, you're going to be looking for greater than 50% of your calories coming from good fats. The CDC program, as delivered by virtually all other organizations, only teaches the low-fat, calorie counting approach to weight loss and blood sugar control. We already discussed how that has limited benefit when it comes to weight loss because of the difficulty in controlling your calories as precisely as you need to, and how calories from different types of food cause very different responses in our bodies. We do teach that approach for those who are set on following that way of eating, but we also teach the more effective, low-fat, vegan, plant-based diet and the low-carb or ketogenic approach so that people can follow whichever one is right for them. Should you decide to go with a low-fat vegan approach, then we can provide you help with how to know how many beans and non-GMO soy products to eat to get sufficient protein into your diet. Remember from earlier, we talked about how you want to get half of your muscle mass in grams of protein per day. Vegans have to really pay attention to make sure they're getting enough protein, and we can give you guidance on that. Secondly, We'll teach you how not to eat too many nuts as snacks during the day, because just 1 cup of nuts will provide you with 1,000 calories. Nuts are very calorie dense. And finally, even the most ardent supporters of a vegan diet and the leaders, the medical leaders in the vegan community, acknowledge that there is a risk of deficiencies in vitamin B12 and the essential fatty acids that come from fish, fatty fish, and fish oil with a vegan diet. So we'll give you guidance on how to get tested annually to know where you're at on those 2 important nutrients, and how to supplement to bring your levels up to the amount that you should have to not just avoid nutrient deficiency health issues, but actually how to optimize your health and reduce your risk of chronic diseases. Now, with a low-carb ketogenic diet, it's often easier to stick to this for the long term as opposed to a low-fat vegan approach, but only if you get some help in doing it right. We teach our clients these 5 important tricks to a successful low-carb diet. Number 1, knowing how low carb to go. We help our clients determine if they would be best served by a low carbohydrate meal plan with carbs consisting of around 20% of calories, or if they would be better on a nutritional ketosis plan, eating 5 to 15% of calories from carbs. Number 2, know the meat portion size for your body. While vegans can have difficulty getting enough protein, the opposite is often the case on a low-carb diet. It can slow weight loss if you eat too much meat. Knowing the right amount for your body and your muscle mass is important. Number 3, we provide lots of recipes to make sure our clients have enough variety in their meals so as not to get bored. And these recipes taste amazing. One of my favorite things to do is experiment with unhealthy recipes and figure out what substitutions I can make to keep the great flavor but significantly lower the insulin response. Think about it. Green chili chicken enchilada casserole, chicken nuggets, pecan pie, hash browns, all with the same great taste you're used to and perfectly acceptable for a low-carb diet. 4, we'll provide restaurant ordering tips. Eating out is easy if you know what to ask for. We even provide our clients with live videos of us ordering in restaurants to show you how easy it's done. And number 5, we'll discuss cheese and nuts and how they can run you into excessive calories. While calories are not the main thing, they do play a role. For best results, you want to eat enough calories so as not to slow your metabolism. But it's also important not to exceed your daily calorie need by hundreds of calories, eating too many foods that are very calorie dense. David and Lourdes, another couple that we've worked with over the years, they've lost over 50 pounds combined. Look at the difference between their pictures on the left and their pictures on the right. And the great thing is they've got young kids who are under the age of 10 who love eating the way that they eat, the way that David and Lourdes implemented for their own health. They've passed on to their children, and their children are growing up with that being the natural way for them to eat instead of eating the standard American diet. Another of our clients, Doug, after 7 months on the program, has lost 35 pounds. His blood work has gone from, oh my gosh, I'm dying, to my doctor says I'm no longer at risk of chronic health issues. And look at his body. Look at the transformation that's occurred in his body. His face is thinner. His waist is drastically thinner. Secret number 4 is to optimize your success by working with a great coach. Now, we know that behind every great success is a coach, whether we're talking about athletics or the arts like music or theater, but even also when we get into weight loss programs, the biggest loser that everybody likes to follow on TV, they all have coaches, and the ones that have the best success in any of these endeavors always have a great coach behind them. A great coach will do several things. First, they're going to guide you step by step through the activities and the information you need to learn to have success with your new lifestyle. Secondly, they walk the talk. They're not just telling you to do something that they've read, they're actually having you do the things that they've already done themselves and demonstrated that they know how to do and have others have success with. Third, they provide accountability and support as you're going through your lifestyle change. Now, this is holding you accountable for the things that you said you want to do, and then providing you with the resources and the tools you need to be successful. And finally, they're going to instill a new belief in yourself, and in the process, they're going to raise your standard. They're going to raise the bar that you think you can reach in making change. While we're going through this, we're going to help you learn what to eat to follow your chosen path. And the reason is that there's so many tips and tricks that you need to learn from a coach to have success. It's not as easy as you might think. One of the tricks you're going to learn is which foods cause a spike in the fat-storing hormone insulin and which have little or no effect. And it's really important to understand that because there's going to be some foods that you're never going to want to eat because of how much of an impact they'll have, some that you'll eat but very rarely, others you can enjoy maybe 1 to 3 times a week, even more that you're going to really feel okay about eating on a regular basis, and there's finally going to be a group of foods that you can eat as much as you want of. But without a coach to help guide you through, you're not going to understand which foods fall into which categories. So let's kind of go through a few examples just to show you that it's not as easy as you might think to know which foods fall where. So let's start with Frosted Flakes and Corn Flakes. If you asked a variety of people which of these 2 breakfast cereals they thought were healthier, most people would probably pick Corn Flakes because Frosted Flakes have the sugar frosting on them. But the reality is that Corn Flakes actually cause a greater insulin response. You'd mistakenly pick Corn Flakes when they're off the chart high on the insulin index. Okay, let's try another one. Apple juice, an 8-ounce glass of apple juice versus a slice of apple pie. Well, the reality is they have the same insulin response. But without a coach, you might think that you can drink apple juice frequently, not realizing what it's doing to your body. And the third one we're going to look at are comparing 2 eggs versus a half a cup of navy beans. Which one do you think is going to have a greater insulin response? Well, the truth is they're equal. So the point being that it's not intuitive as to what foods you should be eating versus which you shouldn't. That's where coaching comes in. Really, without the coach, you don't really know where to go. So let's recap. What are the things that we've shared with you today? First, eating fat doesn't make you fat, although the man-made fats like vegetable oil and corn oil and other polyunsaturated fatty acids are a problem. Secondly, it's not about counting calories. They do play a small part in weight, but it's mainly the fat-storing hormone insulin that we must watch. Third, you can lose weight and lower your insulin level while enjoying truly great tasting foods. And fourth, you want to optimize your success by working with a great coach. So now you have a choice. You've reached that fork in the road, and you could choose to go it alone, continue down the paths that you've tried in the past, or you could choose to work with the experts that have taken people from where you are to where you want to be. Now, we have set aside time in the next week to speak with you personally about your own health challenges and how you can apply the principles we've just taught you to help you kickstart your new healthy lifestyle. Schedule a free 45-minute phone consultation with one of our senior health coaches, during which time you can bring up what your personal health goals are, and we can give you some tips on how to best approach accomplishing those goals. Yes, you heard me right. The 45-minute call is absolutely free with no obligation beyond the call. So let's look at Robin, who has been with us for less than 12 months, and during that time has lost a whopping 14% of her body weight. Her adrenal fatigue is gone, according to her. She claims, "My skin no longer looks like an alligator." And the proof is in her face. Look at how thin her face looks now compared to what it was less than 12 months ago. And along with that, her metabolic age, which is a function of how well or poorly your metabolism is working, her metabolic age dropped by 30 years, and her face shows the proof of that. And finally, here's Marianne, another one of our clients, who lost 20 pounds of body fat in just 3 months. Look at that amazing transformation. What you've seen in the examples we've shared with you today are not special cases. These are average people just like you who've achieved tremendous success by sticking to what the coach teaches them to do. Are you not sure which path is right for you? The next short video will give you the answer.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But you probably won't. You're busy. Kids, work, show coming back in 48 seconds. So let's do this now. Hold up 1 finger if you're a man, women, 0. 3 more fingers if you're over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40. If you're not sure, keep in mind you're sitting on a couch right now, so one more finger if you're not very active. One finger if yes, 0 if no. 1 yes, 0 no. Next, find the body type that looks most like you and hold up that many fingers while I look around awkwardly. And that's it. If you're holding up 5 fingers or more, you probably have prediabetes. Sorry to be so blunt, but hey, you're busy.
You qualify for us to help you if the string test showed your waist was larger than half your height, or you scored 5 fingers or more on the previous video, or you had gestational diabetes during a pregnancy. I will just close by asking you this question. If not this program, then what are you going to do? If you're not going to change with this particular program, what other approach are you going to use to get rid of that belly fat and unwanted weight? And if now is not the right time for you, when is? There's never a better time than right now when you've got it in your mind that I'm ready to make a change. The educational information provided in this seminar is intended to be general in nature and is not a substitute for professional medical advice. The options offered are not a replacement for professional medical judgment. Individual medical advice should be obtained.